Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, Thank you for coming back and nice to have you here. I always appreciate your engagement with my YouTube, uh, especially the comment section. So thank you for that. So here are the news and Concerned Citizens Media comments for September 18, 2021. The first one is very important life-saving message for Oromo youths who are planning to join the Ethiopian Army. So this is very serious advice for Oromo youths trying or thinking joining the Ethiopian Army. The call or the advice is from the soldiers captured by Tigray Defense Force in the battlefield. These surrendered soldiers all joined the Ethiopian army from Oromia region are warning you, the Oromo youths, with their agonizing and subdued voice to stay away from subjecting yourself to death or injuries at war front. These captives said you will be sandwiched between heavily armed Amhara Militia / Fano on one side, pointing their weapons at your back, and another heavily armed Tigray Defense Force at your face. You have no reason to be in this dangerous situation. Do not be fooled by the Ethiopian government media propaganda and lose your precious life. You have nothing to do with this ongoing civil war. Save yourself from this unnecessary sacrifice. And if you are forced to join the army, or if you are already in the army, surrender to Tigray Defense Force when the chance to do so arises. So these are very strong advice to all Oromo youths from surrendered Oromo soldiers in the captivity of TDF in Tigray. So they advising the Oromo youth not to join the Ethiopian army for this unnecessary civil war. The Amhara Special Forces and the Fano are taking advantage of the situation and putting the Oromos in the front and subjecting them to death and injuries. And by staying behind them, if they want to retreat, they will shoot them from behind. So for such dangerous situation, for these unnecessary sacrifices, these captive, these surrender Oromo soldiers, most of them Oromos, telling you, the Oromo youth, not to join the army. If you are forced to join the army, please consider surrendering to TDF if the chances are arise. So that's a very serious advice, and I have a very short video on this one at the end of the reading material. The advice of these captured surrender soldiers with their agonizing voice. uh, twins Twins completed their doctoral studies at Jimma University. Their names are Dr. Nagasa Bratu and Dr. Nagari Bratu. They are from Nakamte town, Wallagga, Oromia region. According to the media resource, the twins completed their studies with the same grade point and they expressed their desire to have their own twin children in the future. So I don't know, I never heard twins graduating from medical school at the same time and getting the same grade point. It's surprising to see that. I know identical twins have, common characteristics. So if the one get the problem, encounter, if the problem he encounter or she encounter is hard, it could be hard for the other one. So if one's love with red color, the other might also love the same red color. So there are common characteristics in identical twins. So now, they are graduating with the same grade point. If I wish I see what grades each get just from the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. So it's surprising to see in general, but they have, genetic issue, identical characteristics. So I just say congratulations for these twin doctors graduating from Jimma University. Is is they are very identical usually, and personality and personal characters. And I wish I know if one loves, a girl, what about the other one? You gonna love the same girl? I don't know. It's just curious about these twins. Their similarities are endless. So I have their pictures. Let me see. Let me. I don't know how to attach these things, so I just show you their pictures. There you go. These are the twin doctors graduating from Jimma University. You see how identical they are? Okay, that's it. So thank you and congratulations to the twin doctors. The next one is U.S. to bring broad sanctions against Ethiopia after Biden executive orders. You might already heard from different media. Joe Biden signed an executive order which is broader, and the specific will come within a week or 2 weeks. But for now, when he already signed an executive order sanctioning Ethiopian officials, Eritrean officials, and also including Tigray Defense Force. So the Abiy Ahmed activity and Abiy Ahmed supporters activities is not getting any good outcome. We have been following what the Ethiopian government has been doing, even the Eritreans. They were campaigning through organizing domestic protesters and global protesters around the world. They just did threatening the United States, intimidating the European Union, other international organizations, insulting and galvanizing Ethiopians against U.S., against European Union, and blaming the international communities, accusing the international communities, and campaigning, organizing a Twitter campaign on behalf of Abiy Ahmed, also sending bishops to the Congress, different bishops in the last week or two, also using the Ethiopian Diaspora Civic Council in the United States to work on behalf of Abiy Ahmed, especially in the case of CNN reporting, blaming CNN, They are the Ethiopian diaspora community, but they are sided with Abiy Ahmed policy. And Abiy Ahmed also sent in the last day or two, he sent 2-page open letter to President Joe Biden, boasting about Ethiopia never been colonized. Ethiopia has a history of 3,000 years. Uh, uh, TDF is a terrorist organization. TDF to be blamed, not the Abiy Ahmed administration. It's nothing like finding a solution for the problem, but blaming the United States and others, accusing the United States for not, condemning TDF. So 2 pages, all blame, all boasting, all accusing the United States and others, and also later writing, later is a white filling a white house with white letter, something like that. A campaign to writing millions, sending millions later on behalf of Abiy Ahmed. All these accusations, all these activities, all these blame games, propaganda campaign, by using media, by using protesters, what they produce, zero. What the intimidation against the United States and the European Union produce, zero. Abiy got nothing. You cannot intimidate the United States. You cannot threaten European Union. You cannot by using Ethiopians for the wrong cause. So it's better to think over this issue and find a better solution. All what you do is getting you more sanctions. It's coming up. The specific is coming up, but let me read. US President Joe Biden signed a broad executive order on Friday allowing government agencies to slap sanctions on those fueling the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region. The executive order I signed today established a new sanction regime that will allow us to target those responsible for or complicit in or prolonging the conflict of Ethiopia, obstructing humanitarian access, or preventing a ceasefire, Mr. Biden said. Senior US officials said aggressive action in the form of sanctions will be broad in scope and would target the Ethiopian government, the Eritrean government, the Tigray People Liberation Front, TPLF, and the Amhara regional government unless they choose a different path and agree to a ceasefire. I don't think they're going to agree. Last November, Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, backed by Eritrean troops and allied militia, launched a military offensive against TPLF. Since then, more than 2 million civilians have been internally displaced and 5.2 million people in the region are in urgent need of food, the United Nations said. Accounts of war crimes, extrajudicial killings, famine, and rape have been reported by humanitarian groups. The US has unsuccessfully leveraged its diplomacy to negotiate a permanent ceasefire or to force Eritrean forces to withdraw, with Mr. Abiy and the TPLF resisting direct negotiation. Mr. Biden, he was appalled by the cruelty and suffering. Nearly 1 million people are living in famine-like conditions. Millions more face acute food insecurity as a direct consequence of the violence. Humanitarian workers have been blocked, harassed, and killed. I am appalled by the reports of mass murder, rape, and other sexual violence to terrorize civilian populations. Fearing further escalation, the Biden administration now threatening sanctions on Addis Ababa, Asmara, and the other warring parties if humanitarian aid remains obstructed and no immediate ceasefire is reached. These sanctions regime that will come out is broader, faster, more flexible, the official added. Washington is also concerned about the obstruction of aid delivery to Tigray by the government. None of the 149 trucks in the convoy that reached Mekelle, Ethiopia last week returned, the United Nations said, of an attempted aid delivery. Besides the 5.2 million civilians in need in the Tigray region, the United Nations is estimating 2.5 million people require health assistance from the World Health Organization and other partners. Cameron Hudson, senior fellow with Atlantic Council's Africa Center, said Mr. Biden's executive action has been made as the situation on the ground in Tigray deteriorates. Mr. Biden is taking action commensurate with the gravity of the crimes being committed and aligning his rhetoric with appropriate strong policy action, Mr. Hudson told The National. The expert sees the coming weeks as critical for the trajectory of the conflict. Mr. Abiy, a Nobel laureate, is being re-elected in his party conference in early October. It matters if those sanctions come before, said Mr. Hudson. With a dialogue and successive trips by U.S. envoy Jeff Feltman to the Horn of Africa failing to move the needle or secure aid delivery, Mr. Hudson argued that the time has come for the U.S. to employ its sharpest punitive tools in the cause of peace. Prominent U.S. senators welcomed Mr. Biden's action on Friday. Democratic chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the State and Foreign Appropriations Subcommittee, Bob Menendez and Chris Coons, said Congress will accompany the action with its own legislation. So the senators also working with another legislation. We will unveil a new legislative effort in the coming weeks for Congress to drastically bolster U.S. effort to pursue accountability for the carnage in the Tigray region as this portrayed ethnic conflict approaches the one-year mark, Mr. Menendez and Mr. Coons said in a statement. The White House dispatched Mr. Coons earlier this year to mediate the conflict. Ranking Republican member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Jim Rush, also praised the announcement and called for accountability in Tigray. The United States and its allies must quickly head off diplomacy to hands-on engagement, Mr. Rich said. So credit the nationalnews.com. So the president signed executive order. The Senate's also working their own version to add more on the crisis in Ethiopia. So multiple efforts by Senator Chris Coons and others, Mr. Feltman, Jeffrey Feltman, all effort became, unsuccessful. Even Samantha Power tried. Abiy Ahmed was hiding purposely not to meet with her. So we will see. Now all that effort is gone. Now we're going to start seeing some serious action. So this is Joe Biden sending a letter to let the Congress know about this executive order. I don't read the whole thing, but I just read one paragraph. The first paragraph is about different, citing different laws in the executive. Letter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the President of the Senate related to the executive order of imposing sanction on certain persons with respect to the humanitarian and human rights crisis in Ethiopia. I have declared a national emergency to deal with the threat posed by this crisis and authorized the Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Secretary of State, to impose sanctions on individuals and entities responsible for complicit in or who have directly or indirectly engaged or attempted to engage in actions or policies that threaten the peace, security, or stability of Ethiopia, or that have the purpose of or effect of extending or expanding the crisis in northern Ethiopia, or obstructing a ceasefire or a peace process, corruption, or serious human rights violation, blocking the delivery or distribution of or access to humanitarian supplies, targeting civilians, planning, directing, or committing attacks against United Nations, African Union, or associated personnel, or action or policies that undermine democratic process or institutions in Ethiopia or its territorial integrity. So I am enclosing a copy of the executive order I have issued. It's a Joe Biden. Sincerely, Joe R. Biden Jr. So that's, I like the system here, the legal system, how they work. The president sign executive order and let the lawmakers know, ahead of time. So that's very nice, very encouraging. So that's it's a two paragraph, but the first paragraph is discussing different sections, laws, that can apply. And I have also printed the executive order. It's very wide. It's about 6 pages, describing whom the sanctions can target: officials, the family of the officials, those board members, all these involved in the war, and the family, adult children of this family. So it's a broad. If you want, you can go to the White House page and print for yourself and read it. Very wide executive order. Okay. WHO Tedros seen running unopposed for top job despite Ethiopia snap. The World Health Organization chief looks set to run unopposed for a second term at the helm of as tries to guide the world through its biggest health crisis in a century, source said. However, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus lacks the support of his native Ethiopia due to friction over the Tigray conflict, the source told Reuters. Exactly how he will be nominated ahead of the deadline for nomination next week is unclear, amid opposition from the Addis Ababa government. An Ethiopian former health minister from the Tigray region, Tedros, became the World Health Organization first African Director General in 2017. He has steered the agency through several Ebola outbreaks as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, surviving savage criticism from Trump administration for allegedly being China-centric. While he has not publicly acknowledged his plan to run again for a second 5-year term, saying he was focusing on fighting the pandemic, four sources said he is the only known candidate at this time. They declined to be named due to confidentiality of the process. Tedros is for sure a candidate, said one source with direct knowledge of the election process, adding that at this stage there was no alternative candidate. However, Tedros, whom an Ethiopian general has publicly called a criminal and accused of trying to procure weapons for Tigrayan force, is not expected to be nominated by his government, as is the diplomatic custom, two senior Ethiopian officials told Reuters. Bilene Siyum, the prime minister's spokeswoman, and Dina Mufti, spokesperson for the Ethiopian Foreign Affairs Minister, didn't respond to the requests for comment. Tedros has described the situation in Tigray as horrific and regularly tweets about developments there, but denies taking sides in the conflict. Consultations are underway, including among African countries, about who will propose his candidacy before September 23 deadline, two of the sources said. The process of formal submission is confidential, and it was not possible to determine whether a formal submission for Tedros had already been made. Kenya will support his re-nomination. Macharia Kamau, principal secretary in Kenya's foreign ministry, told Reuters. When pressed about who would nominate him, Kamau responded, "I think there will be a group of countries." Uganda's State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Okello Oryom, called Tedros an old friend, and Kamala was consulting with other East African governments about his nomination. "If we consult our friends and we find all of our friends support him, then we will support him," he told Reuters. Tedros is seen as a voice for Africa in a difficult forum, arguing passionately for greater access to COVID-19 vaccines for Africa and against vaccine passports, which many African nations fear would curtail the movement of their citizens who still struggle to access vaccines that are plentiful in the West. One of the sources following the election said several countries outside Africa would be willing to nominate Tedros if needed. So credit Reuters. So even though the Ethiopia government, Abiy Ahmed, and the military general accused of Mr. Tedros Adhanom as a supporter of TDF, and they want him to be removed from World Health Organization. Their attempt failed multiple times, and now nobody is competing, which is good for him. He will be nominated. He will have that job for 5 more years. So even though Abiy Ahmed may not like it, the good thing is no other candidates competing against it. Biden administration notifies Congress of Saudi arms sale. The Joe Biden administration on Thursday notified Congress of a planned $500 million arms sale to Saudi Arabia. The sale will cover the maintenance of U.S. military hardware that Saudi Arabia either already possesses or has already purchased. The proposed sale will improve Saudi Arabia capacity to meet current and future threats by the continuation of service that will aid in the maintenance support of Saudi Arabia's rotary wing aircraft fleets, engines, avionics, weapons, and missile component, the State Department's Bureau of Political Military Affairs announced. Saudi Arabia will have no difficulty absorbing these articles and services into its armed forces. The proposed maintenance sale would service several different types of U.S. manufactured helicopters owned by the Saudi military. The $500 million maintenance package will also cover 8 Boeing CH-47F Chinook heavy lift helicopters that have yet to arrive in Saudi Arabia. Riyadh purchased the helicopters in 2018 for $26 million. Mr. Biden said this year that he is ending U.S. support for the Saudi-led campaign against Yemen Houthi rebels. These include the suspension of massive arms sale to Saudi Arabia negotiated under the Trump administration that involve precision-guided munition. And while Mr. Biden has begun to remove U.S. troops and anti-missile batteries that Mr. Trump had stationed in Saudi Arabia, he has also pledged to continue supporting the Saudi military defense operations. At the same time, the Biden administration has sought to broker a ceasefire between the Saudi-led coalition and the Houthi rebels. The Houthis have so far refused to accept the Saudi proposed ceasefire and have so far continued the offensive on Yemeni's oil-rich Marib province, the last stronghold of the internationally recognized Yemeni government. The land-darking Mr. Biden's special envoy for Yemen is traveling to Saudi Arabia and Oman this week in his latest effort to advance the United Nations-led peace process for Yemen. However, he is not expected to meet any Houthi officials during the trip. Credit the National. So there's a serious issue over there, which was started by Saudi Arabia bombardment, and it has been a while. It has no ending sight. The Houthis are also becoming serious. They are getting very strong. They are even attacking Riyadh and other parts of Saudi Arabia. So it was started, I remember, by Saudi Arabia, and to have their own influence. That war created chaos and many lives lost in Yemen. Still no ending sight. So this sale, 500 million, sale and maintenance, if it's used in Yemeni's war, is very dangerous. It's going to create grave humanitarian catastrophe. It should be in. So Biden should look for ending that war, just like the Afghanistan, but it must be in a better way. Okay, the last part for today's reading. France says head of ISIS in Sahara has been killed. French President Emmanuel Macron late on Wednesday announced the death of the leader of ISIS Sahara affiliate. Mr. Macron called Adnan Abu Walid al-Sahrawi killing a major success for the French military after more than 8 years of fighting extremists in sub-Sahara. He tweeted that al-Sahrawi was neutralized by French forces but gave no further details. Defense Minister Florence Parly said Sahrawi died following a strike by French Barkhane force, which battles jihadists in the sub-Sahara. It is a decisive blow against this terrorist group, she tweeted. Our fight continues. It was not immediately clear where al-Sahrawi was killed, although his group has been blamed for dozens of attacks along the border between Mali and Niger. The French military has been fighting extremists in sub-Saharan region, where it was once the colonial power, after intervening in the northern Mali in 2013. However, Mr. Macron in June announced a major scale back in France's anti-militant Barkhane force in sub-Sahara after more than 8 years of military presence in the vast region to refocus on counter-terrorism operation and supporting local forces. Credit again the national. So that is the end of the reading part. So ISIS is a very tough one, and I hope these people choose a different path, a peaceful path, instead of confrontation and beheading and other atrocities. So I have a couple of videos, then finish today's presentation. Thank you again. There we go. Let's see. Okay. So the first one is the one I read in the news in the reading part. These are Oromo soldiers joined the Ethiopian Army but captured in the war front by TDF. Now they are advising other Oromos not to join the army. They are warning you. So please share, so if we can save one life. There we go.
Akka hin seenneen isniinja dabarqi keessatti hin qabame biyyooliin Amhara Militia if duuba deebi'aa makalaakaa bichaa seena makalaakaa baay'ee dhumate kanaafuu akkas hin seenneen isniinja ilmaan Oromoo warri taatan naannoo Amhara seentanii
the same thing, the message I say, don't be careful, don't join.
Adara isniinja warri harar akka makalaakaa hin seenneen isniinja.
See how they painful.
የኦጋዴን ብሔራዊ ነጻነት ግንባር በሶማሌ ክልል ከሚካሄደው
Okay, that's the part I want to show you, but more were talking, but for some reason others disappear. Let's see. There's the last one.
Yes, you want to start now? Come on, come on.
Okay, have fun. I'm closing with fun today. With a little bit entertainment from, I think, Sudan, traditional dance. Okay, thank you. Sudanese cultural dance is very motivating. Uh, so let me close by saying this. I know the Ethiopian government, Prime Minister, and his supporters, they don't listen to the international community's concern. They have been advised for many months to avoid this conflict, to settle Ethiopian crisis through dialogue, through reconciliation, but they all the calls left to the deaf ear. They ignored, and instead they use the propaganda tools. They galvanized Ethiopians through demonstrations at home and around the globe to denounce the United States, to denounce European Union, to denounce NGOs, other humanitarian organizations, blaming them instead of solving our own issue. The call was to release uh, political prisoners and find a solution for the crisis and end this war, end this bloodbath, instead of calling every citizen, even seniors, supposed to get some rest at this time and get their retirement. Students supposed to enjoy at school, teachers, all are called upon to engage in this bloody war. So I hope again they will slow down, see this problem seriously, and avoid their struggle for power and find solution for this bloody war. Very serious civil war. And instead of, because you have 115 million, that doesn't mean you're going to finish this war by engaging all these people. That's ignorant. That's ignorant. Derg tried in the same way, and we lost Eritrea. The same attitude under the name of Ethiopia. Ethiopia, the unity of Ethiopia. We lost the head. We lost the head. We lost the Eritrea. If we continue in this path, we're going to lose the heart. Very important part of that country. We might lose other parts. So this silly propaganda by the government media and by Prime Minister supporters at this time, mostly Amharas, they have to think about the future of that country and end this civil war. I know the United States and other partners are working on this to end this war because their calls were ignored in the past. Now they are coming up with very serious sanctions. And whenever they announce, I will come back and inform you, my listeners. And, it's coming up within a week or 2 weeks. The details, as I said, is about 6 pages. If you go to the White House page, you will print it out and read all these, the details. It's not simple thing. It's not only all these prosperity officials, the families, their collaborators, their supporters, board members, all the military army generals, all these are included. Even the entities, so many details, and a very serious one. The other thing I want to say is the Oromo community in diaspora, They are silent so far. Why they are silent, I don't know. Did they get any freedom? No. This is a time to put more pressure on this government, on Ethiopian government. Your politicians are still in jail. Thousands and thousands Oromos are still in jail. And Oromos are dying, taken out of prison and killing them in the darkness. Sometimes they are dragging their bodies on the street. Sometimes they're giving the bodies to wild animals. So why is the silence? You need to keep the pressure on. The diaspora community in the United States, Canada, Australia, and those European countries, you need to start demonstrating. It's very valuable, very important. You have to be the voice for those people. They cannot be the voice for themselves because the gun is at their head. Because Abiy Ahmed and the Prosperity Party officials are using shoot to kill policies. They don't allow them to express themselves. So we need to come out and continue our demonstration, continue whatever we can to support the freedom fighters. But first, let's come out and put pressure on this government and to end the atrocities in Ethiopia. So I will be back with other news and comments. Thank you for today. Be safe. So long, everyone.